Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question?
Go ahead.
No, Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
since you are attacking our news organization,
Not you.
can you give us a chance?
Your organization's
You are attacking
terrible.
our news organization.
Your organization's
Can you give us a
terrible.
chance
Let's
to
go.
ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can
Quiet.
you state,
Quiet.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you state
She's asking a question. Don't
Mr.
be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not appropriate.
In the days following Donald Trump's unexpected victory in the 2016 presidential election, a significant, albeit brief, moment occurred in the Oval Office. Barack Obama, the outgoing president, met with Trump, the president-elect, to discuss the challenges ahead, one of which was the escalating situation with North Korea. Obama, who had navigated his presidency through numerous international crises, highlighted North Korea as a critical issue. He warned Trump of the potential dangers posed by Kim Jong-un's regime, especially its nuclear ambitions. This discussion was part of a tradition where outgoing presidents brief their successors on pressing global matters, ensuring a smooth transition of power. As Donald Trump's presidency unfolded, a curious phenomenon accompanied it. The mainstream media, once the bastion of public trust, found itself at a crossroads. The relentless scrutiny of Trump, often framed as resistance, was met with an equally fervent backlash. Accusations of bias weren't new, but they reached a fever pitch during Trump's term. The label of fake news became Trump's retort to coverage he deemed unfavorable, and this criticism struck a chord with a significant portion of the American public. The mainstream media, a term now often used with disdain by Trump supporters, began to lose ground. Trust in traditional news outlets plummeted, particularly among conservative viewers. The Pew Research Center noted a stark division, with trust in media among Republicans dropping significantly. Viewership for networks like CNN and MSNBC, which were critical of Trump, faced a sharp decline, with some reports suggesting a loss of up to 40% in viewership numbers post-2016. This wasn't just about ratings, it was about credibility. Many Americans felt the media had crossed into the realm of propaganda, choosing narratives over neutrality. Alternative media, from conservative talk shows to independent online creators, began to see an uptick in followers. These platforms often echoed Trump's sentiments against the establishment media. The narrative of a media war against Trump became a rallying cry for his base, further polarizing the information landscape. The world watched as Donald J. Trump was sworn in as the 45th President of the United States. His inaugural address promised a transfer of power back to the people, but the reality of his presidency was anything but smooth. Trump was quick to make his mark with a flurry of executive orders. His first move was to withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, setting the tone for an America First policy. Then came the travel ban, officially known as the Protecting the Nation from Foreign Terrorist Entry into the United States. Critics called it a Muslim ban, leading to immediate protests and legal challenges. Trump's tax reform, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, was a legislative victory, but it stirred debate over benefits for the wealthy versus the middle class. His cabinet was a cast of characters, each with their own unique flair. There was Mad Dog Mattis, the defense secretary with a reputation for being as tough as his nickname suggests. And then, the Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci, whose tenure as White House Communications Director was shorter than some news cycles. Not to forget, the Mooch's predecessor, Sean Spicer, who was perhaps best known for his battles with the truth and the White House shrubbery. In a moment that stunned the world, Donald Trump became the first sitting American president to step foot on North Korean soil. This unprecedented meeting occurred during his visit to the Korean demilitarized zone in June 2019. The imagery was powerful. President Trump crossing the concrete slab that marked the border, extending his hand towards Kim Jong-un, the leader of a nation long considered an adversary to the United States. This gesture was part of Trump's unconventional approach to diplomacy, aiming to break the stalemate in nuclear negotiations through personal diplomacy. Under the watch of President Donald Trump, the United States saw a significant shift in its approach towards military engagement in the Middle East. One of his administration's bold assertions was the claim of having eradicated the Islamic State, or ISIS. Through a combination of aggressive military strategy and alliances with local forces, Trump declared victory over ISIS, stating that the terrorist group had been territorially defeated in its caliphate.
Capturing or killing Baghdadi has been the top national security priority. He died after running into a dead-end tunnel, whimpering and crying and screaming all the way. The compound had been cleared by this time, with people either surrendering or being shot and killed.
Parallel to the military efforts, Trump endeavored to foster peace in the region. His administration brokered the Abraham Accords, a series of agreements normalizing relations between Israel and several Arab nations, including the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco. These accords marked a significant diplomatic breakthrough, suggesting a new era of peace and cooperation in the Middle East, not through traditional peace treaties, but through normalization of relations without directly addressing the Palestinian issue. Trump's narrative was one of peace through strength. He claimed that by eliminating the physical presence of ISIS and by redefining alliances in the region, he had laid the groundwork for lasting peace. Critics, however, pointed out the complexity of the region, arguing that while these steps were significant, they did not equate to comprehensive peace, especially given the ongoing conflicts like in Yemen, the unresolved Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and the tensions with Iran. The Trump administration's approach to the Middle East was characterized by both military decisiveness and diplomatic initiatives. While the territorial defeat of ISIS was a notable achievement, the path to true peace in the region remains complex and multifaceted, with Trump's policies leaving a mixed legacy in this turbulent part of the world. Under Donald Trump's first administration, from 2017 to 2021, there were no new wars started by the United States, making it a notable period in U.S. foreign policy. This era saw Trump focusing on ending or reducing American military involvement in long-standing conflicts rather than initiating new ones. He notably began the process of withdrawing troops from Syria and Afghanistan, although these efforts were more symbolic or partial, with military presence still maintained. Trump's presidency was also characterized by attempts at diplomatic engagements, like the historic summits with North Korea's Kim Jong-un, although these did not lead to substantial outcomes in terms of denuclearization. Critics argue that while no new formal wars were declared, the U.S. military continued operations under existing authorizations, such as airstrikes in Syria and increased drone activities. Nonetheless, Trump often highlighted his record of not starting any new wars as a significant achievement, contrasting it with previous administrations. Then in 2019 came the first impeachment, a historical event where the term high crimes and misdemeanors took center stage. Trump was accused of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress, but in the Senate, the trial resulted in an acquittal, a political not guilty that did little to quell the discord.
Article 1 is adopted.
But look at that death stare the Democratic Speaker gives her own members as they started to cheer. Solemnity, not crowing, was the order of the day. Back in Michigan, Donald Trump was given a note about the vote and was ready to unload on the Democrats.
This lawless partisan impeachment is a political suicide march for the Democrat Party. Have you seen my polls in the last 4 weeks?
After last night's vote, the fate of the now impeached president will be decided in the Senate, and a trial that almost certainly won't convict Donald Trump. But when it begins, how many witnesses are called, who, and how long the trial lasts is still hotly contested.
And there was a taste of the battles that lie ahead in the Senate earlier today.
Over the last 12 weeks, House Democrats have conducted the most rushed, least thorough, and most unfair impeachment inquiry in modern history.
Donald Trump's presidency significantly altered the ideological composition of the U.S. Supreme Court by appointing 3 justices: Neil Gorsuch in 2017, Brett Kavanaugh in 2018, and Amy Coney Barrett in 2020. This shift towards a 6-3 conservative majority directly influenced pivotal legal decisions. In 2022, these justices, along with other conservative members of the court, voted in the Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization case to overturn Roe v. Wade, ending the constitutional right to abortion that had been established for nearly half a century. Following this, in June 2023, the same court, with Trump's appointees in the majority, struck down affirmative action programs at universities like Harvard and the University of North Carolina, effectively ending the systematic consideration of race in college admissions. These decisions mark significant shifts in legal precedents regarding reproductive rights and racial equality in education. This period from 2017 to 2020 was characterized by policy shifts, power plays, and a persistent clash with the establishment. Trump's tenure was not just about governance, it was a spectacle, a daily news cycle of drama, where the ordinary business of government was often eclipsed by the extraordinary. Amidst this, the specter of Russian collusion loomed large. The narrative suggested that the Trump campaign had colluded with Russia to influence the 2016 election. This led to the appointment of special counsel Robert Mueller, whose investigation became a focal point of Trump's presidency. However, Mueller's report, while detailing extensive Russian interference in the election, did not find sufficient evidence of criminal conspiracy or coordination between Trump's campaign and the Russian government. This outcome fueled debates over the term collusion versus conspiracy, with Trump and his supporters labeling it a hoax. Despite the lack of criminal charges for collusion, the investigation highlighted numerous contacts between Trump associates and Russians, raising questions about ethics and transparency in political campaigns. Moreover, allegations emerged suggesting that the Obama administration had engaged in surveillance of the Trump campaign. This notion, often referred to as Obamagate by Trump and his allies, posited that the Obama administration, possibly through the FBI and other agencies, improperly surveilled Trump associates to gather intelligence on the campaign. The Durham report, which later examined the origins of the Russia probe, did not find evidence of such widespread illegal surveillance, but criticized the FBI's handling of the initial probe into the Trump campaign, suggesting a rush to judgment without substantial evidence. This has added fuel to the fire of claims that the investigation was politically motivated. Despite these controversies, a separate investigation by special counsel John Durham criticized the FBI's approach, stating that there was a serious lack of analytic rigor in initiating the probe into Trump's campaign, but no charges were brought against high-ranking officials from the Obama administration for spying or collusion. The saga of Russian collusion and the alleged surveillance became emblematic of the broader themes of suspicion, political warfare, and the quest for truth in an era where narratives often overshadowed facts. As we look back, it's clear that the turbulence of these years, including these high-profile investigations, left an indelible mark on the American political landscape. The 2018 midterm elections were marked by a significant shift in political power in the United States. Democrats achieved what was often referred to as a blue wave, securing a net gain of 41 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives, thereby gaining control of the chamber. This victory was pivotal, ending the Republican trifecta that had been in place since the 2016 election, and it allowed Democrats to initiate investigations into the Trump administration, block legislative initiatives, and influence policy through their majority. However, the Republican Party managed to expand their Senate majority by 2 seats, capitalizing on races in states that had voted for Trump in 2016, emphasizing the country's political divide. The elections also saw Democrats pick up 7 governorships, highlighting a broader enthusiasm among Democratic voters, particularly driven by issues like healthcare, immigration, and opposition to President Trump's policies. The high voter turnout for a midterm, at about 49%, reflected intense public engagement with the political process, likely fueled by both resistance to and support for Trump's administration. It's worth mentioning that Donald Trump made frequent references to Barack Hussein Obama's citizenship, suggesting that Obama might not have been born in the United States, which would disqualify him from presidential eligibility under the Constitution. These claims persisted despite Obama releasing his long-form birth certificate in 2011, which confirmed his birth in Hawaii. Trump's skepticism was often highlighted during his campaign rallies and media appearances, where he used Obama's full name, occasionally emphasizing Hussein, to question his background and legitimacy. This line of questioning became a notable part of Trump's public persona, aligning with a segment of the population skeptical of Obama's origins and contributing to the political discourse around his presidency.
Under 8 years of the Barack Hussein Obama administration, Which administration loves spying on people's campaigns? By the way, could you imagine if it were the other way around and I spied on his campaign? What would these fake news people be doing?